What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Ill Will getting at y'all, also known as Bobby Gray. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about the iPad 2 and a few other Apple users on YouTube that are really acting Windows fanboyish, I guess you'd say, or I guess fall into that fanboy category. Cause I don't know, a lot of it's pissing me off. Just the way they're acting and jumping for joy for different products. But as far as the iPad 2, let me give my quick thoughts on it. Okay, these are just my thoughts, just my opinion. You know, is it to me? Is it worth the money? Me and a friend of mine talked about it on Skype, and with the camera only being a 1.3 megapixel front and back, um, I don't think it's worth your money. Battery life maybe. I know everybody's going to say, well, it's got a dual core processor, it's a faster processor. Well, on the iPad 1, is there anything you've done that has slowed you down or made it slower or not fast enough for you? Everything is very snappy on it. um, so is the dual core processor really worth you spending the money, extra money to go get it? To me, maybe not. The cameras definitely are a turn off. This is something a friend of mine brought to my attention. Especially when the iPhone 4 has the 5 megapixel backside camera. Um, Not sure why Apple cut corners here, or if they cut corners, or whatever the decision was made to do this, why they did it. But, you know, it is what it is. I know some of y'all will be like, well, we can play games with a faster processor and graphics. Well, if you're gaming on an iPad on a 9.7-inch screen, then you're in the wrong category for gaming, dude. Definitely in the wrong category for gaming. Like a friend of mine said that I chat with a lot about technology. If you want a game, you know, build you a gaming PC or just go out and buy your console. Personally, to me, I've had done the PC gaming thing, and I've had the PlayStation 3 and played on there and played on the and I currently have an Xbox. And I just think personally, gaming on a console is way better than gaming on anything else. That's what they're designed for. That's their main purpose, and that's to me is the best way to game, hands down. PC gaming to me, you get a few more little options here and there. Server options and customizing options with certain games and things like that. And to me, it's really not worth it. I know everybody says a keyboard and mouse is a lot more accurate than a joystick, but I'm not looking for accurate. I'm looking for fun. When I play games, I want to play something that is fun. It's not a job or anything like that. So, if you're gaming on an iPad and you want to spend the extra money just to play a game on an iPad for a dual core processor, I mean, do your thing. But that's my thoughts on the new iPad. As far as the fanboys, when I first started getting on YouTube, and I'm an Apple user. I got me an iMac and everything for my audio production, and I was a big fan of Apple, and I kind of had that Apple does no wrong kind of attitude and all that, and after a little while, I realized that every OEM or every product has their downfalls and their pros and cons. And I was watching Applesoldier's newest video about the iPad, and he really gets on my nerves. I'm gonna just say it. He really gets on my nerves about how much he praises every single item that comes out of Apple. You know, I don't care what the company is. Not every item is the greatest item ever made. In his eyes, everything, if it has a logo on it, then it is magically the greatest item ever. Don't get me wrong. I love Apple. I do. I think they make a lot of great products, especially their software. As far as the ease of use for the consumer, and the how stable their OS is, and their applications are, how well integrated they are with the hardware. That's all thumbs up to me. That's the reason I am an Apple user. But I've used both platforms. I use Windows as well, and Windows has its pros and its cons. I like a lot of things about Windows 7. I think it's probably I think it's Windows' best operating system yet. That's just me. But it really gets on my nerves when you see fanboys like Applesoldier or MacWard. I forget what his MacWard's new channel is, or PC fanboys that just anything that company comes out with is the latest, greatest, and nothing can beat it. It you know it's a pissing contest if you ask me. Or really, who can piss the farthest is all this is matching wits with you. What the hell, really? You want what, are we gonna lay them on the table and measure them? Come on, guys, seriously. Every company makes good products, and all companies make products that should have been better, or should have had this, or should have had that. That's part of reality. Apple is a good company. They make great software to go along with their well put together hardware. You know, and nowadays, if you get what you pay for, really. On the PC side, there's some great PC OEMs out there that build very, very good PCs. Very quality made PCs that they spend time with the hardware and software and making sure everything works well together. But you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay for that from an OEM. Even as a custom builder, you do your research and you make sure you get the right hardware you want that's going to be best for your applications or your use. So this is to Apple Soldier, Mac Ward, or any other fanboy on either side. Get off the company's dick is the best I can tell you. Just if you use their products and you like their products, that's fine, but don't fucking praise them like they're fucking God, okay? Because none of these companies are God, and none of them are perfect. All right. Personally, to me, I'd stick with the iPad 1. The iPad 2 doesn't have enough features for me to go out and buy it. And I noticed in this video where he talks about his iPad, he's talking about no other company has any competition or has brought anything out. And I'm not sure if Google makes it, but it's the Zoom that you can get through Verizon. They do have a pad. It's running the Android 3 OS, I think it is. That is a competitor, but I wouldn't say it's a strong competitor. For one, the pad doesn't come with Wi-Fi at all, and that means that it comes with only a Verizon wireless card in it. Means that you have to have a contract through Verizon to get it, to even access the internet on it, which I think is a downfall for them. And the pricing of it is a little much. $800 is a little over when you can get the iPad with Wi-Fi and 3G, and a lot more applications for $150 to $250 cheaper. Even you can get the iPad 1 now for $350. I think it is. A friend of mine told me. I think he said it. Yeah, $350 compared to $800. I mean, to me, just me personally, I think that's a pretty good deal. A lot of maybe Google will step it up later on with their second version and give you Wi-Fi and give you a more competitive price. But Apple's going to own this market for a while, regardless if it's the iPad 1, iPad 2, regardless of either one you have, they're going to own this market for a long time. All right, because until Google or whoever does the Zoom steps their game up with it, it's not going to be competitive enough to run along beside Apple's iPad. They will eventually step it up, and believe it or not, guys, the Android OS is definitely going to give I think it's iOS 4 or whatever. It's going to give Apple's OS a run for its money. It definitely is. It's a great OS. It's a well designed operating system for their pads. So you got two great ones out there right now for mobile devices, and that's Android and iOS. Far as Windows goes, they're lost in the wind right now. They're just lost. They're so far behind. I'm not gonna say they're not gonna catch up, but they can't be making the mistakes they're making, like what they've done with their phone to try to get in this market. But that's my thoughts on Fanboys and the iPad and their competitors. Applesoldier, Mac Ward, if y'all don't like this video, personally, I don't care. You both can kiss my ass, okay? I'm an Apple user, but I'm not a fucking Apple worshiper. On that note, to everyone else, it's your boy Ill Will. I'll holler at you.